A wealthy man stopped to give spare change to a woman and her child. But when she looked up and whispered his childhood nickname, his entire past came rushing back. Ethan Cole didn't normally stop. His life was a blur of meetings, mergers, and million-dollar decisions. Manhattan's Upper East Side was just a backdrop, a polished, glassy world far removed from the one he'd grown up in. That morning, his driver had taken a different route through the city due to road closures. As they rolled past a stretch of sidewalk he hadn't seen in years, Ethan glanced out the window absently. Then the car slowed. Just outside a coffee shop, tucked into the corner near a subway grate, sat a woman holding a cardboard sign. One hand clutched the sign, the other wrapped protectively around a boy, no older than 7, sleeping with his head in her lap. She looked tired. Not dirty. Not disheveled. Just worn. The kind of tired etched into the eyes. "Stop the car," Ethan said suddenly. His driver looked confused but obeyed. Ethan stepped out, a crisp coat wrapped over his designer suit. The winter air bit at his skin, but he didn't feel it. He didn't know why he walked toward her. Maybe guilt, maybe curiosity, maybe something else. As he reached into his pocket for some cash, the woman stirred and looked up. Her eyes locked onto his face. And then, in a voice so soft only he could hear, she whispered, "Sunshine." Ethan froze. Nobody had called him that in over 25 years. It wasn't a name. It wasn't a greeting. It was his childhood nickname, the one only one person in the world had ever used. He looked at her again. Really looked. And the world shifted under his feet. For a moment, Ethan couldn't breathe. Sunshine. The nickname echoed in his ears, louder than the rush of cars behind him, louder than the world. He hadn't heard that word since he was 10 years old. And there, on that freezing sidewalk, his past caught up with him. He crouched down slowly, his expensive coat brushing the dirty pavement, and looked into her eyes. Brown, warm, familiar. Faded now, but unforgettable. "Emily," he said, voice cracking. Her lip trembled. She nodded slowly. "You remember?" He sat back, stunned. "Emily Dawson, my babysitter?" She smiled faintly. "You were afraid of the dark, used to sneak into the kitchen and beg for toast with honey." Ethan blinked fast, his mind racing. Emily had been a high school girl living in the apartment below his mother's when he was a child. His mom was always working, double shifts, late nights, and Emily had stepped in. She watched him, fed him, sang to him when he cried. She didn't just babysit, she raised him. And then one day, she was gone. "Mom said you moved," Ethan said quietly. "I never knew what happened." Emily looked down at the sleeping boy in her lap, her son. "Life happened," she said simply. "I dropped out of school to care for my dad after he had a stroke. Then came the bills, then the years. I lost track of everything, even myself." Ethan couldn't speak. The woman who once wiped his tears was now begging on the street with a child of her own. "I saw your face on a magazine once," she continued, smiling gently. "Didn't think you'd remember me. But then you stepped out of that car." Her voice cracked. "I had to say it. Just once." Ethan swallowed hard. And in that moment, the CEO disappeared. All that remained was Sunshine, a boy who never forgot the one person who made him feel safe. Ethan didn't know how long he sat there on the sidewalk, coat soaked at the hem, the cold numbing his hands. But he knew one thing with absolute clarity. He couldn't walk away. "I have to do something," he murmured, almost to himself. Emily looked startled. "Ethan, no, you don't owe me anything." "Yes, I do," he said firmly. "You took care of me when no one else did. You didn't treat me like a job. You treated me like family." She gave a soft, tired smile. That's because you were. He looked at her son, curled tightly against her side, thin jacket doing little to fight the wind. What's his name? Caleb, she said, brushing the boy's hair back. He's 7. Same age I was when you called me Sunshine, Ethan said quietly. Then, without a moment's hesitation, he stood up and pulled out his phone. Within minutes, his assistant was on the line. Alex, cancel my afternoon. But you have the finance board. Cancel it, and get me a hotel suite ready. Not for me. For someone else. 2 beds. Warm food. I'll explain later. He hung up before she could ask questions. Then he turned back to Emily and knelt down again. Come with me, just for the night. A warm place, a hot meal, real blankets. She looked stunned. Ethan, I don't want to be a burden. You never were, he said, gently helping her to her feet. You gave me what no money ever could. Emily clutched her sleeping son close and slowly nodded. And just like that, the man who once slept on her lap was now holding the door open for her, shielding her and Caleb from the wind, guiding them back toward dignity, one step at a time. The hotel suite was warm, quiet, and filled with soft light. Emily sat at the edge of the bed, wrapped in a clean robe, her son finally asleep under layers of down blankets. A tray of hot food sat half-finished on the table. Pasta, warm bread, actual vegetables, the kind of meal she hadn't had in weeks. Ethan sat across from her, still in his dress shirt, tie loosened, phone long forgotten. I can't believe you did all this, she said quietly. You shouldn't have to beg for your child to eat, Ethan replied, not after everything you gave me. Emily looked down, ashamed. I tried to hold things together. I had a job at a diner, but then Caleb got sick. I missed shifts, got let go. I was late on rent, and everything just started falling apart. Ethan listened, hands clasped together, jaw tight. He'd seen graphs and charts about economic hardship, sat in boardrooms talking about community outreach and philanthropy strategy. But this was real. This was a woman who once sang him to sleep, now trying to survive day by day with a child in her arms. I never asked for help, she added. I didn't want pity. I just wanted to stay invisible. Ethan shook his head slowly. You're not invisible to me. You never were. A silence hung between them, not awkward, but heavy with years of what was lost and unsaid. Then Ethan stood and walked to the window, the city skyline glowing in the night. I have a house, too big for one person. It's quiet, safe. Yours if you want it. Emily's breath caught. Ethan, I'm not asking for anything, no conditions, no strings, just a chance to repay the woman who once made me feel like I mattered. She looked overwhelmed, not by the offer, but by being seen again, as a mother, as a person. And Caleb? She asked softly. Ethan smiled. He's going to have every chance I had. And then 3 months later, the house that once echoed with silence was alive again. Laughter echoed down the hallway. Toys lined the edge of the living room. The scent of pancakes drifted from the kitchen, where Emily stood in an apron, flipping them just like she used to when Ethan was a boy. Only now, she wasn't making them for him. She was making them with her son. Caleb, healthier now, scribbled with crayons at the kitchen table, humming under his breath. Ethan stood at the doorway, coffee mug in hand, watching it all. He'd moved mountains in his career, closed billion-dollar deals, been named to Forbes lists. But this tiny, quiet scene in a sunlit kitchen meant more than all of it. Because for the first time in years, he felt home. Emily had started taking online classes again. She was earning a degree in early childhood education. something she'd once dreamed of but given up to care for others. Now, with stability and support, she was building something for herself. "I still don't know why you did it," she said one morning as they sat on the porch. Ethan looked at her, eyes soft. "Because you didn't just babysit me. You loved me. You were there when nobody else was. You protected my light. Now it's my turn to protect yours." She smiled, tears threatening but held back. "You were always my sunshine." And he didn't flinch at the name this time. He smiled back. "Still am. Just dressed better now." They laughed, and in that moment something healed. Because kindness doesn't expire, love doesn't forget. And sometimes, the smallest act, a whispered name on a sidewalk, can rewrite the story of two lives.